Hello everyone, Cyber Studios here again with another BAK video, or Become a Killer, obviously. And today, I thought of doing a different type of video, and I want to say this is necessarily a guide video, but more like a video that will explain something about the new player experience. Now, when it comes to new player experiences, obviously, new players are not going to know much about certain games yet until they actually end up, experiencing a good amount of it to the point they end up becoming decent at the game, or they become good at the game later on when they figure out what to do. And this is exactly the case with, of course, Become a Killer. Now, in Become a Killer, there are certain killers you can play as. However, you cannot play as any killer you wish to play as. You actually have to earn points to unlock certain killers. So, what can you play as then? Well, you can play as killers that actually are free. So yes, there are actual killers you can play as that are free. But if you want to play a song like Lord X, for example, you need to grind up to even be able to play as Lord X. But there are killers that are free to play as when you start off playing the game for the first time. And also, I will say that there aren't any survivor characters you can play as when you're new to the game. There's only characters you can play as when you're new. But basically, what I'm trying to explain is the whole point of this video is to talk about who is the best killer for new players, or specifically, who is the best free killer for new players. Because like I said, there are some free killers that are definitely really good, and there are some that are kind of eh. And the good news is, there's a fuck ton of free killers. So there's definitely one for you to choose from if you want to find out which one best suits for you until you get enough points to play the killers that you want to unlock later on. That's enough talk about the introduction. Let's begin. So, who are the free killers you can play as to become a killer? Well, I'll show you screenshots of who the free killers are. The free killers in Become a Killer are Eyelash Jack, Tails.exe, Zombie, Imp, Craze Noob, Jeff the Killer, Kara and Chucky, Jason, Silly Billy, Craze Doctor, and Miss Circle. I'm going to go over each and every single one of them, and I will basically explain how they work, how they play, and I'll also talk about their stats as well. So, let's start it. The first free killer we're going to be talking about is Eyelash Jack. Eyelash Jack's got two abilities. He's got his, knife, and he has his laugh. The laugh is, he laughs, and his knife will basically make it so you can swing your knife and deal damage to, your opponents. The knife has no cooldown when swinging, so you can swing it as much fast as you want and spam it. He's got 40 sprint speed, and he's also got a decent amount of health as well. Now, Eyelash Jack is not bad for a new player. He's not that bad for a new player. He actually is quite decent for a new player. He doesn't deal as much damage, but he's okay for a new player. The only problem is that, he'll definitely, die fast. Any of the free characters can die really fast anyway, but, Eyelash Jack is alright. He's okay for a new player to start off with. Not the best, but he's definitely a decent choice if you're a new player, obviously. That's really all I gotta say about Eyelash Jack. Yeah, up to the next free killer. The next free killer is actually a pretty good one, mainly for experienced players, but not for new players. And I'll explain why in a moment. Tails.exe. Tails.exe only has one ability, and that's his attack. When using, he swings his arms out to deal damage. And it's also spammable too because it has no cooldown. Now, the best thing about Tails.exe is that he has 45 sprint speed. So he's quite fast. He can actually catch up to, well, most survivors pretty much. And considering, he's fast, you can actually, keep spamming your attack and eventually kill the survivor. Deals less damage too. Um, is he better than Shaq? In a way, yes. However, there is one downside. He has very low HP. He can actually be two-shotted by a mech. So despite the fact that he's fast, despite the fact that he deals less damage, which wouldn't matter because he's very fast to the point, yeah, you can easily capture a survivor and just mess him up. However, because of the fact he has very low HP, yeah, he can die pretty easily. So definitely not for experienced players. This wouldn't be that bad, but for new players, yeah, they're gonna struggle with this one because of the fact that he has very low HP and such. So yeah, he's fast and he does and he can deal less damage. But again, his attack is spammable, so you can just melt the survivor's health. But again, when it comes to dealing with survivors that can kill you, yeah, he has low HP, so he's not going to be an easy one for new players to do well with. But for experienced players, this isn't bad. For a new player, that's a completely different story. Alright, the next free killer is the zombie. Or in that case, the green zombie villa from Survive and Kill the Killer in Area 51. So zombies only got one ability, and that's simply his attack. He has dirty 2 sprint speed, 35, 37. I think it's 37 sprint speed he has. I don't know. I could be wrong. But yeah, he also deals a decent amount of damage, and his attack is spammable as well. Despite the fact that he's significantly a little slower than the other 2 killers I spoke about, he actually does a decent amount of damage. He can 3 or 4 shot a survivor, really, like most survivors. Like survivors have low HP, he can 3 or 4 shot them. But he does pretty decent damage, despite being a little slow. However, as I stated, just like all free killers, he does have low HP, so definitely you might die a lot. Will he be good for new players? Not necessarily, no. He is a little slower. Considering he is slow, he will be very easily for experienced players, especially experienced survivor players, to avoid, considering he is slightly slower than Jack and Tails.exe. Definitely not the best killer for a new player to start off with. So yeah, that's what I can really say about Zombie. The next free killer is actually possibly one of the best free killers for a new player to actually start off with. The Imp. Now, I gotta say, he's actually definitely one of the best options for a new player to start off with. So, what is the Imp? Well, the Imp is pretty much the baby version of the zombie. So, in that case, he's the baby zombie. So what is Imp? His only ability is obviously attack, which basically he just swings his arms out again and just smacks the opponent. And of course, no cooldown, so it's also spammable. He has 44 sprint speed, which means he's pretty much fast. And he is pretty... Oh yeah, he also deals pretty tiny damage, but because of that he, he can attack really fast. He can melt down survivors' health in no time. And he has very low HP, just like Tails.exe. However, he is definitely way better than Tails.exe in one simple way. That is the fact that he's actually hard to hit. Well, okay, for players who are using melee weapons, like survivors, that wouldn't be an issue. But for survivor players that use guns, he is really hard to hit. It's really hard to shoot him with a gun because he's tiny and he's fast. So him being fast and him being small, he's really hard to hit. Not only that, even melee players will definitely struggle against him because he can just simply keep spamming his attack and just melt your health like there's no problem. So you'll either win a fight against the imp if you're meleeing him with a sword or a spear or a spike club, or you will most likely die trying because he can just simply keep spamming his attacks and just absolutely wreck you. So this is definitely going to be one of the best killers for new players because he is just really hard to deal with because he is small, which means he's hard to shoot, and he's just hard to really kill, kind of. Yes, he has low HP, but considering the fact that he can just melt your health so quickly, like, yes, I know Tails RDX can do the same, but Imp is just significantly better than Tails RDXC because of the fact he's just so small and he's just hard to hit because he's tiny. And he's fast. Like, he's actually fast. And he's only 44 sprint speed, which means he's one sprint speed smaller than Tails.exe, but he's just better than Tails.exe because he's just small, making it hard for him to take damage because it's hard for the survivors to hit him. He's just that tiny. And yeah, definitely one of the best options for a new player because he's fast, he's tiny, which means he's hard to hit, and he just completely can melt your health because he can just spam the attack. Hell, he can even melt the freaking Juggernaut, despite the Juggernaut being tanky. Like, look at this. I completely destroyed that Juggernaut. Like, not completely, but like, look at this. I eventually like start melting his health like crazy because, yeah. I mean, eventually I do let the Dweller kill him, but yeah, he's just really good for a new player. That's enough with Imp. Let's talk about the next free killer. The next free killer is the Crazed Noob. He actually has two abilities. He's got Oof, which makes him scream. Well, not scream, more like do the fucking, the old classic loud oof noise that you would hear in the old days of Roblox. Yeah. Except it's more distorted and it's fucking loud. Then there's his other ability, which is his knife. Now, unlike the other killers that I mentioned, which they can spam their attack, Clay's Noob's attack actually has a slight, I guess you could say, 0.5 second cooldown. Yeah, more like a half a second cooldown. So it's spamming still, just a very tiny cooldown. He does decent damage and has decent health. He's got 44 sprint speed. So definitely an okay choice for someone to start off with too. I mean, he's just as decent as Eyelash Shack, let's be honest. Like, strength-wise, he's just as decent as Eyelash Shack. So, not a bad choice, really, for a new player, really. He's pretty much the same strength as Eyelash Shack. So I can't really say much about this one. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about the Crazed Noob. Up to the next free killer. The next free killer is Jet the Killer. Jet the Killer has two abilities. He's got his laugh, and he's got his knife. Jet the Killer's laugh ability goes, well, obviously, he laughs. Now, his knife is, well, he's got his knife, and it also has no cooldown, by the way, which means you can spam it. Deals less damage, but because it's spaminal, you can just melt a survivor's health fast. He's got 45 sprint speed, I believe. So he's got the same sprint speed as Tails.exe. I think he also has low health too, but I think he has a bit more higher health than Tails.exe. I don't know. I think he's just the same strength as Tails.exe, let's be honest. Because he's got the same sprint speed. He pretty much deals the same amount of damage, most likely. Yeah, he's pretty much the same strength-wise as Tails.exe. So, for experienced players, he's definitely pretty good, decent and good. For new players, not so much, because he's got low HP, so you will die extremely quick. Yeah. That's all I gotta say for Jet the Killer. Alright. The next free character is Chucky. Chucky has two abilities. His knife and his laugh. His laugh is, well, How many times do I have to repeat this? He laughs. There you go. Now we got his knife, which basically he swings his knife, and like I said, it's also spammable, so you can spam it whatever you want. No cooldown. Um, Chucky is actually surprisingly strong. Like, I think his sprint speed is like 49. I think it's 49. Hold on, let me look at the gameplay. Is it 49? I could be wrong. Let me see. His sprint speed, yep, I am correct. His sprint speed is 49. So he is really freaking fast. Yeah, he's really fast. And because his knife is spammable, he can definitely melt a survivor's health very quickly. However, just like Jeff and Tails EXE and the Imp, even though the Imp's definitely the best option for a speedster because he's just hard to hit, even though Chucky is small too and he's hard to hit, not as hard to hit as someone like the Imp. The Imp is way more smaller than Chucky, so Chucky can definitely guarantee to die fast. So definitely not a good, definitely not the best, definitely not the best option for a new player to start off with, because obviously I think Imp is the better option than Chucky, because yeah, Chucky is small, but not as small as Imp though. Imp is like way too small to the point he's hard to hit almost. Chucky is just small, but you can still like lit him up to death with a minigun, you know? So definitely not good for new players, but yeah, that's all I can say about Chucky. The next free character is Kara from Undertale. Kara has two abilities: her laugh and her knife. Her laugh is, well, she laughs, and her knife is basically, her red knife that she can spam wherever she wants. And yes, no cooldown, so you can spam it wherever you want. She has 47 sprint speed, so she is significantly somewhat better than Jeff. But probably has low HP as well because she is fast. So is she good for new players? Not really. Again, just like most of the fast killers in Become a Killer, they have low HP. I wouldn't be surprised if Kara had low HP either. So definitely not a good choice for new players, because you're gonna have low HP, you're gonna die extremely quickly against survivors that can fight back and such. But anyways, that's all I gotta say about Kara. The next free killer is definitely actually the second, actually probably the best pick for any new player to start off with, really. Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. Jason has two abilities: his machete and his laugh, which doesn't make any sense because Jason doesn't speak nor laugh. The only thing you can really hear Jason all you can really hear Jason go on about, even I don't know, Jason doesn't even talk nor laugh. It's like he's pretty silent, but whatever. It's Hero's game. He can do what he wants. So laugh makes you laugh, and of course we got his machete, which actually is not as spammable as like the other killers. Jason has a 1 second cooldown when slinging his machete. And he has 40 sprint speed, and he has a decent amount of health, sorta. He can still die fast, but not as fast as like the fast killers, obviously. Despite his machete, which I guess is somewhat spammable because it's only a 1 second cooldown, he actually deals a decent amount of damage. Like, he can actually three-shot like most survivors that have low health. Like, survivors who have low health, three-shot. He can three-shot them with his machete. But survivors who are like tanky and stuff, I mean, it takes a bit more hits to kill them, but he actually does pretty decent amount of damage. And I would say he's definitely the best option for new players to start off with because he's got a decent amount of health, a decent amount of speed. He actually does decent damage. So definitely a really good killer to start off with if you're a new player. So yeah, definitely Jason's the best option for new players to start off with. Yeah. Go wild, new players who wants to start off as Jason. The next free killer is definitely the worst one of them all. Silly Billy. Or in that case, yourself. So, why is he the worst one? Well, let's look at his stats. First, let's talk about his ability. He only has one ability, and that is attack. He'll swing out his microphone to pretty much punch you with his microphone. And he has 35 sprint speed. And I think he's a little bit tankier than all the other free killers. However, he's definitely the worst one to start off with. He is significantly slower than all the other free killers. Definitely not the best option for a new player to start off with because he is actually pretty slow. Which means, it's easy to outrun him. Like, any survivor can easily outrun him because he's just slow. He does decent damage, though. Like he does a bit more damage than Jason, I believe. But he's just slow. Like, he's not like 35 sprint speed, yeah, you're not going to be able to catch up to someone if you're just chasing them normally. For experienced players, this isn't a big deal because, they can definitely, ambush you at some point, something like that. For new players, nah, definitely not the best starter killer for a new player to start off with. Definitely a no-no for a new player. Next free killer is the Crazed Doctor. The Crazed Doctor has two new abilities, his Saw and Laugh. Laugh is self-explanatory, he laughs, and his Saw, well, he swings his Saw. And I think it has a 2-second cooldown, I believe. Yeah, it has a 2 or 3-second cooldown when you swing it. So definitely not as spammable. And it actually does decent damage too. I think it can 3 or 4 shot survivor as well. However, he's not as good as Jason. His sprint speed is 39, which means he is kind of slow. He can still somewhat catch up, and he has a decent amount of health as well. So I think he's okay for a new player. But I think Jason is the better pick for a new player because Jason actually is faster than the Crazed Doctor, and he actually is better when it comes to damaging survivors. I think Jason is the better option than Crazed Doctor, but the Crazed Doctor is not that bad for a new player either. Really, I can't really say much about this one. I just think he's decent for a new player. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about the Crazed Doctor. And the last free killer that I will talk about is, Miss Circle. Now, Miss Circle has two abilities. She's got her weapon, and she's got an ability called Line, which, instead of a laugh, she just speaks in a Japanese text-to-speech voice line. So, she doesn't laugh. She just talks in a text-to-speech Japanese voice. But that's at least somewhat different than just simply laughing. She's got 43% movement speed. I think she does a decent amount of damage as well, I believe. And she's got a decent amount of health. Honestly, not a bad option for a new player either. I think Jason's still the best one, but she ain't bad either. Not a bad option for a new player, really. Yeah. So what I gotta really say about Miss Circle? Nothing too crazy, really. Excuse me. Alright, so now that we got all the free killers out of the way, yeah, so we pretty much talked about all the free killers that a new player can play as to become a killer. There is one that is obviously there are some that are obviously not the best choice for new players to start off with. There are ones that are actually decent for new players to start off with, and then there are two that are really actually pretty good for new players. And there's one that is just really not the best option for new players. So I'm going to be talking about which new free killer is the worst one and which one is the best. So let's get started, shall we? Let's talk about who's the worst and who is the best for new players to start off with. The worst free killer for a new player to start off with is Silly Billy. Yes, Silly Billy. Not only is he actually pretty slow, which means any survivor can just outrun him pretty much, even though he does decent damage, he is slow. So you can't really catch up to any survivor. Again, for experienced players, they can just simply use him to ambush a survivor or something. For new players, nah. Because the first thing the new players are going to do is try to chase someone, which they're not going to be able to catch up because he's slow. And even though he's a little tanky, yeah, he's definitely not good because he's just specifically slow. So he's not going to be able to catch up to any survivor really. The only time that a new player can really get a kill as Silly Billy if they're dealing with players who don't know what they're doing. But if you're going against like really experienced survivor players, yeah, they're not going to be able to do anything at all. So the worst free killer for a new player to start off with, Silly Billy. But who is the best? Who is the best free killer for a new player to start off with? Now this is a tough one because the two best free killers I can come up with is Imp and Jason. Jason because, well, he actually does decent damage and he's somewhat fast, which means he can somewhat catch up to a certain survivor, and he's got decent health. But he's pretty decent but he's pretty good because he actually does decent damage. Imp, because not only is he fast, which is normally not a good thing because fast characters have low HP, despite the fact he has low HP, he's small. He's very hard to hit. So a survivor would actually struggle trying to kill this one because he's just so small. But when I was coming up with two together and coming up which one's the best one, I think the best free killer for a new player to start off with is none other than Jason. Just Jason Voorhees. Why is he the best option for a new player to start off with? First off, he deals decent damage, decent amount of health, which is pretty much all the free killers at this point, and 40 sprint speed. So he's definitely the best one because even though he has 40 sprint speed, like the other free killers at some point now, he does a decent amount of damage. He kind of hits like a truck, you know? Because like the other ones, you know, their attacks are spammable and they deal less damage, but they can melt your health fast because they're spammable. Jason, despite his attack having a 1 second cooldown, you can technically spam his attack too. Even though it's like a small cooldown, you can still spam his attack, and it deals a good amount of damage actually. You can like 3-shot most survivors if they have low HP, or even better yet, just completely like 1 or 2-shot survivor if they have like low HP left, like if they're already damaged. So Jason can definitely catch up to certain survivors, even though he's kind of slow. 40 sprint speed is not bad for a sprint speed. He can definitely catch up to certain survivors. His machete deals a decent amount of damage, and it's pretty much spammable at this point too, because despite having a short cooldown, still spammable really. And he's got decent health, just like all the other free killers. All in all, he's just the best option for new players to start off with. So, yeah, for anyone who is new to become a killer, yeah, just start off with Jason. He's like the best option, really. Does decent damage. His attack is definitely spammable, despite having a short cooldown. He has decent sprint speed. Yeah, just be Jason. Just start off with Jason. I mean, if you want to start off with the other guys, then that's really your option. But if you want to start off with someone who's actually pretty good, Jason's pretty much the best option for new players out there if they want to actually do good at first. I mean, when I introduced Become a Killer to a friend of mine, he was new to the game. Then again, my friend's actually pretty good in most Roblox games anyway, because he's just really good at the game. He's just built different. Um, when I introduced him to Become a Killer, the first killer that I told him to start off with is Jason. And he did fantastic with Jason. Jason's he's just the best option for new players. That's all I really gotta say. Thank you for watching and listening to what I have to explain about all the free killers, which one's the best option for new players, and which one is definitely not a good option. I hope this video helps you out if you want to get good at this game, or at least come up with an understanding to how to at least play as certain killers when you get good at the game and get more experience at it as time goes on. I mean, look at me. I'm pretty experienced enough. Even when I'm experienced, though, I still get killed when I'm killer, but that's just, that's just the game. Just, the game's. I want to say the game's unbalanced. I mean, ever since the Survivor's buff update, both sides are pretty strong to each other now, so game's definitely balanced. It's just, sometimes you'll get in situations where you can't really do anything. You'll die anyway. Same with Survivor. There are scenarios that you're just pretty much screwed. But other than that, that's all I gotta say in this video. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Anyways, fellas, see you guys next time.